Hey everyone, it's Susan Pierce Thompson and welcome to the weekly vlog. I'm happy to be here with you. I've got a great topic to cover today. And before I launch into it, I just want to say that this past week was an exciting week for Bright Line Eating because we were featured at an academic conference. It was one of the sessions, there was a poster about Bright Line Eating, and yeah, it was at the Experimental Biology Conference, which was held up in Chicago. Lots of people there, thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And yeah, they had a session on metabolism, energy expenditure, and weight loss, something like that. And they had a thing on Bright Line Eating. So Andrew Kurthaw put that together, doctor from Millsaps College, thank you. And it was exciting to see Bright Line Eating get out into the scientific community. I know that there's also a paper that's submitted right now and under review in an academic journal to describe the Bright Line Eating program and stuff like that. So yeah, I just wanted you to know that we're plugging away on the back end here on the scientific front. We have amazing numbers, like just amazing results. Our research is showing that Bright Line Eating is more successful by far, like by 1 or 2 more orders of magnitude, like by far, than any other weight loss program on planet Earth. And we have other scientists around the world who are taking interest and taking note, and that is super exciting. So with that behind us, let's go ahead and talk about our topic today, which is from Emily Neblock. I know Emily, she's a dear gal, and I just want to say Emily has amazing music. I have a CD of hers in my car that I play on loop. It's got 2 singles on it, and I just play it on loop. You can find her music at her website, which is emilyneblock.com, N-E-B-L-O-C-K, Emily, common spelling, emilyneblock.com. So anyway, Emily, just a shout out to you and your music. It's lovely. And here's what Emily wrote in. Dear Susan, can you talk about how and why Bright Line Eating changes your sleep cycle? I remember you describing how when you started eating this way, your entire sleep cycle changed. I can relate to this as it has happened to me. I have struggled for years and years with my sleep until I started Bright Line Eating. Now everything has changed. I understand that this probably has a lot to do with the institution of automatizable routines that you follow every day, but is there more to it than that? Love to you and all the Bright Line Eaters, from Emily Neblock. Such a good question, Emily. Let's talk about circadian rhythm a little, because I think the last time I talked about it, there was more recent research that actually wasn't even aware of yet. So I'm excited to revisit this topic and bring in that new science for you. So yeah, it does have to do with automatizable routines, Emily. You're totally right about that. In particular, the routines of not eating outside of mealtime and eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner at consistent meal times. There's research that shows that most people don't do that out there in the big bad world, right? Most people actually, on average, are eating all day long and having bites of calories coming into their mouth up until the moment they fall asleep, and first thing in the morning, usually, with some cream and sugar and some coffee, like right away. And so what that means is that they, on average, have maybe an 8-hour fasting window, meaning that the time that they're not actually consuming calories on average stretches from like 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., and that's it. Now, when you start doing Bright Line Eating, of course, you're not eating anything after dinner. You're not dumping cream and sugar into your coffee. And when you're not eating anything after, whatever time it is that you finish your dinner, all the way until morning time, almost invariably that creates a good 12, maybe even 13, maybe even 14-hour fasting window. So you're expanding that fasting window from 7 or 8 hours to 12, 13, 14 hours. And that's one of the key features here. Another key feature is that you're eating at consistent meal times, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, nothing in between. So let's talk about what this does to the body and to the brain and to sleep. Sleep is governed by lots of things, the hypothalamus, and there's this nucleus in the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is about yay big, like maybe an inch cube, and maybe even smaller than that actually. And inside it, maybe even a centimeter, it's a pretty small little thing. And inside it are lots of little nuclei that do different things. The hypothalamus is the part of the brain that regulates sort of our thermostat type things, when we need things kept in a certain range, like hormonal releases, for example. The hypothalamus works with the pituitary closely to regulate the endocrine system, the hormones, right? And so things like sleep, food, sex, temperature, thirst, all of these things that need to be kept sort of within a specific band of functionality, they're governed by the hypothalamus. And there's this specific nucleus in there called the suprachiasmatic nucleus of the hypothalamus. We just call it the SCN because no one wants to say suprachiasmatic nucleus all the time. So the SCN governs circadian rhythm. So your circadian rhythm is your 24-hour biological clock, right? And lots of things in our body go on this 24-hour biological clock. Things like temperature, for example. You don't actually have the same body temperature all day long. As a matter of fact, your temperature drops quite a bit by a few degrees at night and then comes back up, peaking during the middle of the day. Other things that go on a circadian clock include awakeness, alertness, cognitive functioning, right? Lots of us notice that there are certain times a day that we're more cognitively alert, other times a day when we kind of crash. And then, if you've ever been in a movie or, up to, late and you notice that your eyelids are drooping and you just can't keep yourself from falling asleep, that's a hormone called melatonin. And that's a really critical hormone for our discussion here. That's the hormone that makes you drowsy, that fosters deep, solid, good sleep. And the deal is that your circadian rhythm can be healthy, which looks like big differences between your awake cycles and your asleep cycles, or just basically between the differences, the peaks and the valleys of these things like hormones and alertness and stuff like that, temperature. If you see big differences, you have a healthy circadian rhythm. There should be big differences. You should not be wasting energy being alert in the middle of the night. You should not be wasting energy having a high temperature in the middle of the night. It's important for the body to have this big difference between your sleeping patterns and your waking patterns. That's kind of the whole purpose of the circadian rhythm. Now, modern day living, including eating practically around the clock and getting exposed to light, including especially the bluer wavelengths around the clock, where you can be on screens that are shining blue light into your eyes, which is actually, that's what resets the circadian rhythm each day. It's not something that just runs on its own. It's something that gets reset each day through light exposure. Well, that used to just happen from the sun. Now it happens through screens and lamps that we have in our houses. So we're duping our brains basically thinking it's daylight when it's really not. And all of these features, eating throughout the day and getting exposed to light throughout the day, day and night, and getting exposed to light throughout the day and night, have duped our circadian rhythms into thinking that there's no real difference between day and night. And what's happened is our circadian rhythms have gotten unhealthy and they've gotten flat. So that instead of big peaks and troughs in your healthy circadian rhythm, now you've got like moderate, some difference, but not much. And what this means is it's hard to go to sleep because your body isn't preparing you for sleep. Your body's not shutting down your brain for sleep, and you have sleep problems. So I want to take this now a level deeper, which is that it turns out that the suprachiasmatic nucleus of the hypothalamus is not the only place that regulates circadian rhythm. The brain, the overall circadian rhythm, is one circadian rhythm in the body. It turns out that the cells of other organs also have their own circadian rhythm that turns out to be independent of the brain's circadian rhythm. They have their own biological clock. We're talking about organs like your intestines, your stomach, your liver, your kidneys. Your organs are keeping track of your 24-hour cycle too, and they are preparing themselves for their work on a 24-hour biological clock. Now, when again, you're eating willy-nilly, because it turns out that food is the primary resetter of those circadian rhythms, of the organs. So your intestines, your stomach, when you're feeding them on a regular schedule, breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the same time every day, they get into a healthy circadian rhythm as well. They know when to release their digestive enzymes, when not to bother, when to be digesting their food, when it's not time to be digesting their food. And those mechanisms also create this healthy routine pattern inside the body. Now, when you're feeding them, when I think about how I used to eat before Bright Line Eating, I was as likely to be ingesting calories really any time of the day. I frequently stayed up till 3 or 4 in the morning. I frequently slept past 3 in the afternoon. But oh no, if I had a doctor's appointment at 8 a.m., maybe I would have to be up at 8 a.m. And don't you know, I'd be going through a fast food place getting tons of calories on the way to that doctor's appointment. And, so I could be literally ingesting calories any time of the day. And there was very little relationship from one day to the next of when I was putting food into my body. There's really interesting research coming out that meal timing is as important, maybe more important, for circadian rhythm regulation as light exposure. We used to think that it was all about light exposure with circadian rhythm. It turns out that meal timing and meal frequency, but especially meal timing, is key for setting and regulating circadian rhythm. So when you start to do Bright Line Eating and you start to eat 3 meals a day with nothing in between, and after dinner you're not eating anything till bedtime, and when you wake up in the morning you're not eating anything until your first bite of breakfast, all of a sudden your body gets into its rhythm, your circadian rhythm gets nice and pronounced, which means that at night, at the right time of night, you get this healthy, walloping dose of melatonin that puts you right to sleep super fast. You sleep a nice long time. You wake up refreshed. There's this phenomenon in Bright Line Eating of your eyes pop open before your alarm goes off, just feeling like, oh, it's time for another day, and feeling pretty good about that. And all of that sort of waking up happy, joyous, and free, that amazing feeling is due to the timing of your meals in Bright Line Eating. Pretty cool, right? So thank you for that question, Emily. It was a great one. I think a lot of people forget that when they do Bright Line Eating, not only are they going to be losing a ton of weight and getting into a right-sized body, but so many other things in their life are going to straighten out. Their sleep, their relationships, their self-care, their self-esteem. I mean, so much just starts to spin into place. And this is one of the classic examples of that. So thank you for raising the topic, Emily. I love you. Great to hear from you. And yeah, that is the weekly vlog. I want to encourage you again, if you haven't already, to post a review on Amazon. Last I looked, sorry for the superstitious among us, there were 666 reviews on Amazon of the book, Bright Line Eating, The Science of Living Happy, Thin, and Free. If you've already posted a review on Amazon, if you feel like it, would you please go on to Barnes & Noble and post a review? Because I think there's only 5 reviews over there. And I think 2 of them are 1 star. I don't know how that happened. I don't even think we have 2 1-star reviews on all of Amazon. So just by some kind of fluke, 2 really grumpy people who did not like my book at all reviewed it on Barnes & Noble. And out of 5 reviews, that means our average is 3 out of 5 stars, I think, because of course the other reviews were really good. So anyway, if you feel like going over to barnesandnoble.com and reviewing the book over there, I would be super grateful. That would be awesome. And yeah, either way, I hope you make it a great Bright Line Eating day, and I will see you next week.